Over the last few years, I've written a lot about creating a successful executive and EA partnership. It is the key relationship for assistants and the one part of the role that you have to get right. Without a successful partnership, the work just becomes that much tougher. So, today, I want to talk about how you can anticipate your executive's needs and, of course, other mind reading tricks. If something is causing your executive stress or is an unnecessary waste of their time, you should be doing everything you can to fix it for them. A good, solid working relationship between you and your executive is achievable if your executive doesn't feel like they have to manage you. Don't get me wrong, they have to be a good manager who supports you professionally through regular catch-up meetings and feedback, but on a day-to-day basis, you should be anticipating their needs and ensuring everything is running smoothly around them. Not only is that going to improve the relationship with your executive, it's going to make you one hell of an assistant. So how do you anticipate needs? How do you ensure that you are always one step ahead of your executive? I think it boils down to being proactive rather than reactive. And for assistants, this can be difficult to achieve. We work in constant flux, and often we do spend the day putting out fires and reacting to other people's wants and urgent requests. I get that. But for assistants, the ability to be proactive rather than reactive is such a strong skill, and it really will lead you to thrive in the role. Why? Because you're not just doing the work that people ask you to do, you are creating your own role, working on your own projects and adding value where you see it. This is a much better position to be in as an assistant and will lead to more opportunities, and it really will help make your executive more successful. So let's look at the 3 areas that will help you move from a reactive assistant to a proactive assistant. Number 1, increasing your business awareness. Number 2, taking responsibility in your role. And number 3, forward thinking. Now, in the past, I've spoken a lot about business acumen because for me, this is such an important topic for assistants. If you have zero interest in what your executive does, then you are never going to thrive in the assistant role. You have to care about them and you have to care about the business. Sure, I know this is easier said than done. If you work in an industry that isn't particularly glamorous or in an area that you're not that excited about, of course, you're not going to get overwhelmed with joy every time you open a briefing document. But saying that, to thrive in the role as an assistant, you do have to be interested and knowledgeable about the industry, and you have to care about your executive and what they want to achieve in their role. Without this, you'll just be surviving, and you will never learn to anticipate their needs or move from proactive to reactive. If you need to improve your business acumen, I have a fantastic checklist that you can work through that will help you improve in this area, and I'm going to talk you through that now. So number 1 on the checklist is start with why. Okay, as most of you will know, I have stolen this from Simon Sinek. He did a fantastic TED talk that you should all watch. And his book, he talks about the ideas of starting with why. And that is where we want to start with business acumen. Why does your organisation do what it does? Not what it does or how it does it, but why. What is the purpose of your organisation? And then within that, why does your executive or executives do what they do? What are their core beliefs and values? Why do they work in a certain way, and what makes them tick? Once you start to think about the why of things, you will start to gain an idea of what the bigger picture is. In other words, why something has to be done, rather than just getting on and doing it. Number 2 is never stop learning. And by that, I mean attend training in areas that you can improve, business strategy, finance, marketing, events, whatever it is. Where can you add value? Where is there a gap in expertise in your business, and can you fill that gap? Number 3 is never stop networking. Networking is basically the foundation to good overall business acumen and understanding the direction of the business. And networking for assistants is essential for so many reasons, but in terms of business acumen, it will greatly improve your knowledge. And here's why. When you network, you find out about stuff. So go to network events, meet with other assistants, attend the training sessions that go along with networking events, meet with suppliers, go to team drinks, go to departmental drinks, go to your organisation's networking events and talk to your colleagues. One of the cheapest ways to find out about what is happening in your organisation is to talk to the people that work in the organisation and ask what they do. As an assistant, you are automatically given a level of trust that other people within your organisation are not given, so take advantage of that. Always ask, what's happening with you? What's going on? What are you working on? Because people want to get on well with assistants. They know that assistants are worth knowing and have a lot of information. So use that to your advantage to build your own knowledge of the organisation and what's going on. As I always say, be curious. Read everything. That's next on the checklist. This might seem obvious to some of you, but I've met assistants who don't do this. And it's something that I absolutely preach, is read everything. And I mean everything. Read your executives' emails, both their inbox and their sent items. Read their reports, read their memos, their files, their past emails, everything. If there are any business magazines that your executive subscribes to, read those. Make sure you read everything that is put up on your internal communication system, your intranet, for example, or any of the collaborative tools that your organisation uses, and briefing documents. I always found that the intranet to be a weird and wonderful place to go to get lots of information about the organisation. Next up, listen to everything, because this is how you really find out how your executive operates and the people that surround themselves with, how they operate as well. Do you take minutes at meetings? Again, this is another fantastic way to increase your business awareness. Always offer to go into meetings to take notes. You'll pick up so much of what's going on, and you can anticipate what your executive will need coming out of that meeting. Listen to what's going on around you, what your colleagues are talking about over lunch or during post-work drinks. Now, you obviously don't need to divulge that information to anyone, but being business savvy isn't just about the nuts and bolts of the business. It's also about the mood and feel of the office. People make businesses, so make sure you also have a good understanding of what's happening with your colleagues and the culture of the organisation. And last but not least on the checklist is to attend meetings. So do you attend meetings with your executive? If you don't, then you need to. It's imperative that you are privy to the same information that your manager receives. You should be going to as many meetings as you can, and if you can get into client meetings, board meetings, team meetings, project meetings, everything that involves your executive making a decision, note that information down. Attending meetings will bring you into contact with the company's decision makers, and you are going to be privy to their conversations and how they come to make the decisions that they make. So ensure you listen to these people while you're in the meetings. If you know why decisions are being made in the company, then you can start to make choices about your everyday work following the same strategy as your executive. And I just want to read to you this fantastic quote from somebody that I've been following for a long time and has something so fantastic to say about the way that he works with his assistant. And it's this: your assistant works with you, not for you. Hallie reads all of my emails, attends the majority of my classes and trainings, listens on calls, and sits in on meetings. She is more effective when she knows what I know, knows how I think, how I solve problems, and what I have decided and promised, so she can follow up and deliver. Do not keep your assistant on the periphery, assigning tasks that have no context or meaning. They will be far more invested in your success when they are a part of the entire process and eventually part of the decision making or even making decisions on your behalf. Bring your assistant into your inner circle. Everyone wins. I think we have covered a lot on how you can improve your business acumen. So let's move on to taking responsibility in your role. Again, I've broken this down into 3 areas: taking action and making decisions, being accountable, and what I like to call random acts of initiative. So this is what I like to call the section on don't wait to be asked to do things. Have a look at all of your day-to-day tasks that are assigned to you. I bet there are loads. These are the tasks that you should have complete control over. They may be minor things like picking up the post every morning, through to more significant tasks like managing your executive schedule or managing events. For every task that you have complete control over, think to yourself, how can I make every task a complete success? What can I do to ensure the process attached to each task runs smoothly and is working well? Make a list of these tasks and spend some time making them more efficient. You are accountable for these tasks and you should take responsibility for their success. The most important aspect of the assistant role is saving our executives time. It's their most valuable resource, and everything that we do should be geared up to protecting and nurturing their time. I want to share with you now some advice that I gave a few years ago around some of these areas that we can save our executives time by doing the work ourselves. These are the tasks that you should be doing instead of your executive. They are the tasks that take time but don't necessarily drive your executive's objectives forward. There will be loads of other functions that your executive will be working on that they shouldn't be, or that you can be doing confidently, and you should bring these different tasks to your executive's attention. As I say, the more that you take off their plate, the better that they are and the more proactive that you are. So here are just a few pointers. All communications to staff, including notes for meetings, updates on news. If the note is essential or it's high-level information, assistants should prepare the communication for their executive, asking them to review or amend the details before they send the communication out on behalf of their executive. Assistants should also deal with all inbound communications, organise and decide which information to give to their executive. That includes emails, telephone calls, everything. Number 2 is research. Assistants should research on behalf of their manager. This could be anything from finding out details on a new client and their business, to checking other organisations' annual returns, or merely viewing a further business contact on LinkedIn. This will not only save your executive time doing the research themselves, but it will also better prepare them for meeting new individuals. Number 3 is administration of documents. Assistants should manage the administration of records on behalf of their executive, deciding which documents their executive should read, and assistants should schedule time in the exec's diary for catching up on paperwork and reading, etc. Forwarding documents to other members of staff as appropriate, or filing information for a later date. Assistants should also ensure that all confidential materials are secure or shredded. All documents which are sent to the executive should firstly go to the assistant so that they can print or format the documents for their executive to read in their scheduled time. The same applies to board papers and board level reports. Number 4, assistants should manage all of their executives' emails. They should be able to reply to incoming emails and also send emails out on behalf of their executive. The executive's calendar should be controlled entirely by their assistant, and the executive shouldn't edit the schedule at all. Instead, they should direct all meeting requests to their assistant. The executive should be kept in the loop when changes are made to the diary, and this should be discussed during the assistant executive daily catch-up meeting. But it's imperative that assistants should manage their executive's email and diary. Number 5 is business travel. Executives should not organise any of their business travel, no matter how easy or quick they think it is. Assistants should manage all aspects of business travel. Domestic, international, everything. Things like purchase orders, invoices, expenses. Again, assistants should be in complete control of all financial aspects relating to the executive office, including purchase orders, invoices, and all expenses. This isn't something that any executive should be doing. They should also be signing off a lot of these expenses on behalf of their executive. Obviously, if this isn't an option, then again, some time for signing things off should be scheduled in the executive's diary. The same also goes for holiday and sickness records. If the executive has a large team, then they will have a lot of holiday sickness records that they have to deal with. They shouldn't be doing that. The assistants should be managing all of that and signing off and having authority to sign off those leave of absences as and when they come through. Assistants should control the management of suppliers, directly supplying to the executive and the team that they work for. And that also includes researching new suppliers, maintaining contracts, communication, invoices, everything like that. And the last one is assistants should be the point of contact for all things relating to their executive. To save the executive time in their day to concentrate on the bigger picture, assistants should be the filter for all communications, all meeting requests, all administrative and financial related matters. So now that we've looked at all of the tasks that you can proactively manage, let's have a look at how you can be more accountable at work. This is such a big question. What do I mean by being more accountable, and why is it so important for assistants? For me, being accountable means taking control of your own success, managing your own workload, your career, and your relationship with your executive and your colleagues. It means making decisions and taking ownership of the results. It's really important for us to be accountable for the work that we do, and there are a few reasons for this. And I know this is something that a lot of assistants struggle with. I think it harks back to that age-old problem that we see ourselves as just the assistant, that we don't really have the authority to question things and make decisions. We're given work to complete rather than put forward our own suggestions. The term support staff doesn't really help either, because it suggests that we're only there to offer support and do the things that are asked of us and not much more than that. But I have to tell you, this, my friends, is an absolute load of rubbish. The role has changed. It is constantly changing. There are more opportunities for assistants than ever before, and we must be accountable for our own success. So, what are the benefits of accountability? When you take control of your own workload, you accept accountability for your actions and take real responsibility for what you're tasked with, well, the benefits are huge. And here are just a few differences you'll find in your behaviour once you start to think about accountability within your role. First one is that you will set yourself goals. You will recognise that you are an expert at what you do. You will recognise the power that you hold within your organisation. So accountability, it's a good thing. Yes, it is. Now, I'm probably talking to the converted here in a lot of ways, because so many of you are attending the training today, and that just shows to me that you are taking accountability in your role. But the question is, where do you start? So let's have a look at how assistants can specifically be more accountable within their role. So as I said before, and it goes in the same way as being productive, it's taking a look at the tasks that you have and controlling them. It really is the first step to being more accountable. I'm going to go over this because it's so important. Have a look at the day-to-day tasks that are assigned to you. There will be loads. Make sure that you are looking at them and thinking, how can I make these more efficient? How can I make sure that every task is successful? And what can I do to ensure the process attached to each task runs smoothly and is working well? You are accountable for these tasks, and you should take responsibility for their success. So that leads on to being more results focused. When you are more accountable for your actions, it will lead to you being much more results focused, which in turn makes you more valuable to your organisation. With everything you do, think to yourself, what are the goals here? What are my objectives? What do I want to achieve? And what are the useful outcomes? This level of critical thinking, I think, really is so beneficial to your business, because you will constantly be looking for the return on investment in everything that you do. If you find you spent ages on a task that's not business critical or adds any value, because you are being accountable in your actions, you can either adjust the process and make it more efficient, or you can stop doing it. Or you can tell the person that has assigned you that task, this doesn't fit in with my core objectives, my goals, or where I think I need to be moving the business forward and adding value. Next up, what areas can you influence? Now, there are a whole load of tasks that you may not have direct responsibility for, but you do have influence over. Again, if it helps, make a list. A task that springs to mind for me, and I've already mentioned it, is working with suppliers. Now, you might not necessarily be the person that signs the contract for a new supplier, but you do use them, probably more than most. So again, take some responsibility for this relationship. Let your executive know if a supplier isn't quite working or if they're brilliant. Let other people in your organisation know so that they can benefit as well. Being accountable for your work doesn't just mean that you control the good stuff. It also means that you are honest when things aren't quite working. If you decide to take more ownership of your work, then you'll have to put your hand up when you might fall behind with deadlines or you're struggling with something. Now, this isn't actually necessarily a bad thing. If you're working on projects that push and challenge you, there will be times that you need to seek advice from your executive, just like any other member of staff. Remember that you have to be accountable for all of your work, though. I remember one time I was working on a really brilliant company-wide project. I was super excited about it and spending a lot of time working on all of the details. It was going really well. But then one afternoon, my executive called me into her office for a quick catch-up. She told me that she was really proud that I was working on this big project, but had noticed that I wasn't quite up to speed with my day-to-day tasks, and I'd missed a few things that I had always done for her. Looking back, it wasn't nice to hear, but she was totally right. I was having a great time working on this new tasks, but I had to take account of all of the other stuff I had to do, and I had let the ball drop. But being accountable meant I had to put my hands up, apologise, and say it wouldn't happen again. Being accountable for your mistakes sucks, but it's so important it's as important as being accountable for your success. And it's worth remembering that when you fail in some areas, you still are growing, because with every failure, you are growing and you are learning. So that's why accountability, again, is so fantastic. Another aspect of being accountable is having the realization that you might need some help to make each task a success. And that's why it's so important that you ask for training. And high five to everybody on the course, because you've done that. And it's so sometimes it's so difficult for assistants to do. So well done you. When you are accountable and you ask for training and you have been doing all of the work to make your tasks a success, your organisation will probably take your training request much more seriously. Because when you're accountable, you know that other people within your organisation depend on the results of your work. So without training, can you perform to the best of your abilities? Last but not least, accountability has to begin with you. It's such an important competency for assistants, and it will only become more valued as our assistant industry moves away from a support function into a business critical role. I think we've covered a lot so far on this session about proactivity and accountability. And with that comes taking initiative. Initiative is basically doing the right things without being told and getting involved in the business. It's basically doing the right things and getting stuck in. I think we've discussed a lot of that so far. I think we've discussed how you go about doing that. But what I thought I would do is share a few examples of what I like to call random acts of initiative. These are some of the actions that you can take to show initiative as an assistant. I'm going to leave this up for 30 seconds for you to look through, and then we'll move on to the next part of the presentation. So just to conclude, here are the points to remember when it comes to taking more responsibility in your role. Don't wait to be told what to do. Ensure everything is running smoothly. Be accountable. What can you do to make processes and procedures more efficient? Random acts of initiative. Be a leader in your role, own your work, and take initiative. Let's move on to my final point, forward thinking and being anticipatory. Being a forward thinking assistant will help you so much in the role, but I'm going to be honest, it isn't easy, and here is why. We are so busy getting through our tasks, supporting others, and helping out as much as possible. It can be hard to take a breath and really think through how everything's working and what problems might occur in the near future. But this is what assistants who are forward thinkers are able to achieve in the role. You are never caught off guard because you understand the behaviour of those around you and the structure of the business. You plan for the future because you take the time to plan ahead, think and strategize about future challenges. You take action because you don't wait for other people to make decisions. You meet problems face on and get them fixed. You are fully integrated in your business because you move at the same pace as your business and you can adapt and react when necessary. These are the qualities and traits of an assistant who anticipates needs and has a ton of mind reading tricks up their sleeve. I hope this presentation has helped you think about how you can move from being proactive to reactive, how you can take some more responsibility and accountability in your role, and how you can start to think more about problem solving and how you can be more forward thinking. With these key skills, you will anticipate needs of your executives, you will be 2 steps ahead of them, and you will be seen as a mind reader.